It was a quiet Tuesday night when I clocked into my shift at Tony's sandwich shop. Delivering sandwiches wasn't the most exciting job in the world, but it helped pay the bills and kept me moving. That night, the streets were unusually empty, the kind of emptiness that makes you second-guess every shadow and glance over your shoulder more than once. I loaded the last order of the night into my Cara Turkey Club with extra pickles, destined for an address at the edge of town. The neighborhood wasn't familiar to me, but the GPS marked it as a simple 15-minute drive. Nothing out of the ordinary, or so I thought. With my favorite playlist blaring through the speakers, I drove through the darkened streets. The hum of the engine and the faint rhythm of the music created a calming backdrop to my routine. As I approached a red light at a deserted intersection, I noticed something odd. The light refused to change. I sat there, tapping my fingers against the steering wheel, waiting. A minute passed, then two. The light stayed red, defying all logic. Just as I was about to inch forward and run it, a car pulled up beside me. It was an old black sedan with windows tinted so dark they might as well have been painted. I glanced over, curious but cautious, only to feel an inexplicable chill crawl up my spine. Something about the car felt wrong. I couldn't see who was inside, and the stillness of the vehicle unnerved. When the light finally turned green, I hit the gas and drove on, eager to put some distance between us. In my rearview mirror, I noticed the black sedan it just sat there, motionless at the Weird, I muttered under my breath, shaking off the unease. Maybe they were waiting for someone or checking their GPS. Either way, it wasn't my problem. Or so The GPS guided me off the main road and onto a narrower street, lined with houses. Except these weren't the kind of houses you'd expect to find at the edge of town. They were pristine, almost unnatural. The lawns were perfectly trimmed, the windows clean enough to reflect the moonlight. But there was one glaring oddity. Not a single house had its lights. It felt like driving into a ghost town. My headlights cut through the darkness, revealing a row of eerily silent homes. The GPS pinged, signaling I had arrived at my destination. The house I needed was second to last on the street. A two-story structure with a freshly painted I parked by the curb, grabbing the order and stepping out into the chilly night air. The silence was dead. Not a dog barking, not a television murmuring behind a window, not even the faint rustle of wind through the trees. It was as if the world had been put on mute. Walking up to the front door, I noticed something else. The porch light was off, and no light spilled from inside that. Still, I knocked, hoping someone would answer quickly so I could get back to the warm safety of The door creaked open slightly under my knock. It wasn't locked. My heart skipped a beat. Hello? Sandwich delivery? I called, trying to mask the unease in my voice. There was no response. I pushed the door a bit further open, peering into the dimly lit interior. The house was eerily pristine, much like the others on the street. Not a speck of dust, not a single item out of place. Something wasn't right. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but curiosity anchored me to the spot. Hello? Is anyone home? I tried again, my voice echoing slightly in the silence. A sudden noise from behind startled me. I spun around to see the black sedan from earlier parked across the street, its headlights off but the engine faintly humming. My pulse quickened. How had they found me? Were they following? I backed away from the door, sandwich bag still clutched in my hand. My car felt a mile away, though it was only a few steps down the drive. As I moved, the driver's side door of the sedan creaked open, and a shadowy figure stepped out. The streetlight illuminated just enough to reveal a tall man wearing a dark hoodie, his face I froze, torn between fight and flight. Can I help you? I called, trying to sound confident, though my voice betrayed me with a slight tremor. The figure didn't respond. Instead, he took a step toward me, slow, and that was all the motivation I needed. I bolted to my car, fumbling with my keys as adrenaline surged through me. The figure broke into a sprint, his heavy footsteps pounding against the asphalt. Just as I managed to unlock my door and dive inside, he reached for the handle, yanking on it with enough force to rock. I locked the doors and started the engine in one fluid motion, my hands trembling. The man banged on the window, his face now inches from the glass. His features were distorted with rage, eyes wide and bloodshot, a twisted grin spreading across his throwing the car into reverse. I slammed on the gas, nearly backing into the mailbox before straightening out and speeding down. The black sedan's headlights blazed on behind me, and it roared to life. Panic consumed me as I weaved through the unfamiliar streets, trying to lose him. My phone buzzed in the cup holder, but I couldn't afford to look away from it. I turned sharply onto a main road, hoping to find traffic or a well-lit area. The sedan stayed on my tail, relentless. Finally, I spotted a gas station up ahead, its bright lights a beacon of hope. I pulled in, skidding to a stop near the pump. The sedan screeched to a halt at the entrance, lingering for a moment before slowly retreating into the shadows. My chest heaved as I struggled to catch my breath. The clerk inside the station gave me a curious look as I stumbled through the doors, babbling about the man who had chased me. He handed me a phone to call the... By the time they arrived, the black sedan was long gone, leaving no trace behind. The officers listened patiently as I recounted the events, nodding grimly. One of them mentioned similar reports in the... A man in a black sedan had been stalking delivery drivers, luring them to empty houses with fake orders. "You are lucky," the officer said. "Most don't get away." The gravity of his words sank in as I sat in my car, the adrenaline fading and exhaustion taking its place. That night changed everything. I quit the delivery job the next day, unable to shake the memory of those bloodshot eyes and the twisted... Even now, years later, I can't drive past a black sedan without feeling that same chill crawl up my... Some nights, when I am alone, I'll glance in my rearview mirror, half expecting to see those headlights blazing behind me once more.